You see, today you have a lot of people who are protesting different consequences, different symptoms of the lack of knowledge of God Almighty. So they're protesting, they're horrified by different things they see and hear and that are being taught to their children and so forth. But though that protest and being horrified is not the answer. Because the fact is that these parents are sending their kids to a school where God is not being taught. So there's already something seriously off base in the thinking of these parents. Now they're horrified to see some of the extreme results, consequences of this disconnect from God Almighty, but their kids are being warped in every single subject. The socialism that's being taught and the values against the honoring their mother and father and the total denial of God in the sciences and the math and the history and everything. The English stories that they're being told to read. So something seriously off that the parents are sending their kids to school. So they're just protesting against one thing, which is like too much for them. But if they just reverse that one thing, let's say they could eliminate the offensive material that they find offensive, they haven't really eliminated the problem. The problem is that the whole schooling system is devoid of any knowledge of God. Just correcting the material, if we corrected the economics and we corrected the history and we corrected the math and we corrected the sciences, but you have to see God in front and center on every single thing. And the children of Israel have to bring the praise of the beauty and the glory of God Almighty to every single human being in working with all the pious among the nations of the world that understand this also and are going to bring this to all 8 billion people. So this is what we're here for. This is the whole message. That's why we have to realize that all the phony dialectics and the distracting debates and the arguments and all these kind of things are just such a on this way they're being fought, and people are being focused to be superficially involved on the superficial issues, then it's not really solving anything. If you were to see something that horrifies you and then realize you have to turn back to God Almighty, because this is where you and your family and everyone else is going. If they don't, God forbid, then that could be a productive result of the being exposed to how far this goes, this Amalek's war against humanity. But if you're just going to do it to say, oh, those people are crazy, disgusting, terrible what they're doing, and that's kind of your only reaction, you're not really getting the point that the people who are doing these things, the people who are involved in these things, are themselves suffering because they're disconnected to their creator, and everyone else around is also disconnected. Not everyone necessarily, but I'm saying a whole swath of the population. There's something like 30% of the people that don't have any identification even with anything divine. They don't have any affiliation or belief in God. 30% of the population. And the 2/3 that say they have a belief in God, do they believe that God Almighty right now is creating something from nothing of every single one of their eyebrows? And their entire body and their entire existence, lovingly and intentionally? And actually feeling the love from God Almighty? So if the answer is yes, that's wonderful. Then we're 2/3 of the way to Mashiach. But if they don't actually perceive that on a constant basis, then we see how much we have to do to spread this knowledge and this understanding, this connect people with this feeling of God Almighty's love for them and for their family, that they are important to bring more children into the world. That's how important they are to God Almighty. God Almighty wants them in the world. He wants them to bring children into the world.